Education is constantly evolving. Staying informed about emerging trends is crucial for school administrators, teachers, students, parents, and communities. Welcome to Learning Forever, hosted by Dr. Sue Lang, President of NewsBank's K-12 division. Dr. Lang engages with national leaders to discuss the pressing issues facing education today. Learning Forever is brought to you by NewsBank, a global news and information provider to schools, libraries, and research institutions worldwide. In this episode, Dr. Lang has a conversation with a school district using artificial intelligence in the classroom.
Welcome back to Learning Forever series. My name is Dr. Sue Lang, and I'm president of K-12 Education for NewsBank. Today, we're going to have a conversation about AI, Chat GPT in the classroom. And we are very fortunate to have three outstanding leaders from the Princeton City School District in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'd like to introduce to you Tom Burton, superintendent of the district, Chris Lockhart, Director of Technology, and Mrs. Ladora Hill, Curriculum Director for Princeton City Schools. I want to get started by saying that K-12 educators across the country are pondering the issue of AI, how it will work in their district, how it will improve student learning, and that's a question that everybody's thinking about right now. We've seen it on news. We read it in the articles in Education Week and other journals. So today's conversation, I want to start with the superintendent of schools, Mr. Burton, to ask him, not about the implementation, but about the vision. What happens? How did you get started with thinking about AI, and what were your beginning steps? So Tom?
Sure, thank you. Well, it's interesting because I just left the conference, got back yesterday, and at the conference, everyone's talking about AI. A conference beforehand I went to, everyone's talking about AI, but AI is not new. We're just acting as if it is new. So I know we need to respond to that reality, but all the way back when Alan November was talking about wolframalpha.com, way back when, that is AI. When you do all this searching for photos, and even though you don't categorize Google Photos, say I want to find pictures of a beach, if you just type in beach, the AI behind it will happen. On our phones, AI is alive and present. So I think that reality is really important to understand. My framework, Chris's and Ladora's, because we know it's been there. This is not new. So I think the reality is, though, everybody doesn't feel that same way. And so the first thing is trying to get everybody on board. And one of the things that Chris and I were at a conference, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago, and AI again was talked about so much. And Chris and I are next to each other kind of laughing about the fact that this is not new. And somebody gave us a wonderful opportunity to participate with ISTE and learning more about that. It was a 8 to 10 week course, and really kind of digging down deep into that. So that's really kind of our first big foray in having everybody else kind of learn more about AI. So we had Chris and Ladora and some others involved in that. But the vision of trying to always be on the cutting edge, if you will, I think that's really, really important to be vulnerable enough to take risks and fail and try new things and see what happens. But Chris and Ladora have done amazing work around this, and we're super excited to be here today and talk about AI.
It's interesting because what I gathered from what you just said was not only is it, we know it's not new, but you have to lay that foundational understanding of what it is. And it sounds like that's what you brought back to Princeton. Can you talk more about that, how you actually brought it back to Princeton?
Sure. So specifically, in fact, again, Chris and I were talking about this, and it really came down to this question: do you embrace or do you embargo AI? And that really is what it's all about. So we had this opportunity to take part in this ISTE cohort, and we then sent back. Actually, Chris did. Chris was going to, but his computer wasn't working. So I did, and I lost a steak dinner, Sue, because of this. Dr. Lang, excuse me. All because of it. But we ended up sending invitations out to people to join this cohort internally. And then we did, and then we got accepted in the cohort. And now, I mean, that's pretty much what we did. The overall vision, you know, during all of our administrative cabinet meetings, we're always kind of pushing the envelope. And just another way that we push the envelope is bringing back AI specifically from FETC conference.
Ask Chris more questions and Ladora about the training and in Princeton. But Tom, as a superintendent, do you find that you're an outlier, or do you find it's common for superintendents to push the envelope with not just AI, but with new ideas and changes? Talk about that just for a little bit.
Sure. Well, Dr. Lang, oh boy, this is a big question. So much of your leadership as a superintendent falls back to your relationship with the school board, how much you feel you can push. I am a pusher. I've always been that way, trying to make sure that I sharpen my own saw and learn and grow and get better. You know, I often say there's only 3 things that happen every day of your life. You get better, you get worse, you stay the same. That's it. So I literally every morning I wake up and I choose better. And I don't think we can get better if you do the same thing the same way every single day. So for me as a leader, I think that, you know, it's critical to make sure that you stay abreast of anything new, whether it's technology or new protocols, legislation, whatever. So I think you have to always stay on the know. First of all, I think, you know, some of our wonderful colleagues who are doing really, really good work sometimes get beaten down. And when they get beaten down, I think they're reluctant to take a chance. And so I think that's really important to understand that you have to be able to count in Ohio to 3, because there's 5 board members. So if you're in whatever other state and you have 7, you got to count to 4 to be able to pass whatever it is that you are going to put forward. But the whole essence of making sure that we're putting the best product out for kids every single day should be the driving force and the only driving force. I think AI is something that's going to be great for kids. And I know there's lots of scary things to it, but the reality is it's going to be best for kids by helping them understand how to use it, because that is the future. And since it is the future, we have to not be afraid and to take a chance and some risks.
That's unbelievable. I love how you frame that. And I just want to ask one more question, and that is, where do superintendents usually go to get that information? I know there's journals, there's reading you can do, which we all should. I always said, if you don't read, you don't lead. But where do you find you get a lot of that innovation and information?
Well, you know, it's funny. So a lot of times people would say you go to conferences, and that's certainly one way that you could do it. You could Google and do your own research. That's one way. But I would say the best thing to do first is to look inside. Not be afraid to ask the questions. Create a culture where your team is going to push you, but also they're going to bring ideas to you. Sometimes the greatest innovation that ever existed actually lay dormant because a leader would push down people. You have to be inclusive and welcoming to be able to have your staff feel comfortable enough to bring some ideas. And you know what? Bring the crazy ones, bring the unique ones, bring the ones that everybody in your life told you no about, but you still fundamentally believe to your core that this is an innovative practice that's going to help students. Don't be afraid to bring that. And as leaders, you got to look internally, I think, to start. And then you could go elsewhere to try to develop new theories and understand. But it really is, I think you should start with your team. And then I also think looking inwardly too and asking that fundamental question, are the decisions I'm making each and every day best for students? Or are we just doing the same thing because it's easy? the right thing many times is not easy.
Oh, your words are wonderful. And you know, because you've known me for a while, I 100% agree with you. I really liked what you said about looking internally as well as externally, because that internal means that you're a listener, you're a leader that listens, and that's such an important skill. But I want to go now to Chris and Ladora and talk to them about what they learned through their certification. I believe they went to some type of a conference or training. Let's talk about that and then the next steps.
Sure, I'll start. As Mr. Burton was talking about, we were invited to participate in ISTE's AI Explorer, and it was just great. It was one of the things I got excited about when we went to the conference to be part of it. And even with my technical background, really taking that 8-week course even gave me a deeper dive into the artificial intelligence at a deeper level. And it just got me even more excited about it. And because we did bring it back to the leadership, we all participated in it. So now we all have this level playing field of understanding truly what artificial intelligence is in a very broad scale, but also having an appreciation for how we can use it here in K-12 education. Because I think the thing that's hitting the news right now is a lot of the generative AI, which is the newest iteration of it that the public has been exposed to. As Tom has said, Mr. Burton has said, AI has been around for a very long time. It was just working behind the scenes, and just nerdy people like me, I call myself that affectionately, really even cared about any of that. But now it's so readily available to the public. And of course, the news is now focusing on some of the challenging issues of the artificial intelligence when you talk about originality, when you're talking about copyright, or the extreme where they're saying it's going to take over the world. But we as a school had a great opportunity to learn. And since all of our leadership learned, including Ladora, who's on this call, and I'll let her talk about her experience with it, we've all now got this baseline of understanding of how we can make sure that we can maximize this opportunity for our staff, our students, and our community.
It's interesting, Chris. My read, what you just said was you cultivated that knowledge base across your leadership team and to others. It wasn't just Tom and you and Ladora, it was others that you cultivated that and nurtured that. So yes, I'm going to now ask Ladora, so what are the decisions next? How do you choose next steps? How did you choose next steps?
Well, I think first of all, again, that visionary, the leadership role that Tom has played and the motivation that he has instilled in all of us makes you more intrinsically motivated to take a chance, to step out there and know that if you make a mistake, it's okay. We are trying to improve academic achievement for all of our students. So, in looking at this, you're always looking at the data. Data drives everything. You look at the data, what are the needs? What is it that we can do better? And when you look at your data, that's how you make your decisions. And the piece where we are in a risk-free environment to not only look at the fundamental things that we're doing, but also the technological things and all of it that can help enhance education.
So this is, you both have shared building that culture of risk-taking, of trust, believing in your leader, and also always keeping students first. So I want to ask the next step that you did with the how, because you both have talked about the how. So let's talk about what are the characteristics of next steps that you took? Because I had the opportunity to visit one of your elementary schools recently. Amazing.
First start about the capstone project, because I think that's the piece that really helped trigger us to really put it into action immediately versus later on. So Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about the culminating capstone? Because we had to collectively think of a capstone that I think really pushed us and catapulted us to the now rather than then.
Yeah, it was really apropos, the timing. we started this 8-week program towards the end of the school year, which was probably one of the worst times to have started this program because of the level of attention it required. And so it was a bit of a challenge. And when you finish the program, like any good rigor, you have to create a capstone of what you've learned. And so each of us on the team were coming up with these ideas of these capstones, these fictional products or ways of using it. And Ladora said, well, there actually is this product that's out there that I'm looking at piloting. And so we had a conversation about it and decided that was probably the best way to go, because first of all, she had already started to do the work around this pilot. And second of all, the pilot just fit in so well with what we had just learned in that 8-week course about how we could leverage AI specifically in K-12. So it was a great timing that took place.
Dora, talk about what were the most important goals that you were working at that time, well, actually just a couple months ago, with the program.
Well, the main opportunity, so when looking at our data, the goal is how do you increase academic students, whether you have an IEP, whether you have a WAP for gifted, a WEP, whatever that is, we still have to personalize learning for every student. And so okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to ask a question. This is really good. So you're talking about the goals, the needs, the pain points in your, especially elementary students. 3rd grade reading guarantee is important. You talked about factors such as research and evidence-based. What were the characteristics in an AI program that you were looking for that could really help these students?
Immediate feedback and looking at it in a way where it's going to be engaging, it's going to be consistent, and the data and the progress monitoring will be recorded with fidelity. So I think what happens when we do intervention, good, bad, or ugly, something happens, the person doesn't show up, the kid doesn't show up, it's too long, you don't have the data. So in looking at something that was focused enough to take 12 minutes a day, so you have to look at where you're going to do this, how effective it's going to be, and who's going to monitor it. So when you look at all of those things wrapped up in one, there's your light bulb. So one, it's personalized. Number two, the students, what's really great is that they're able to read into the computer, and it's natural language processing. So when the students are actually talking, it kind of processes and it does the feedback right away. So the first step would be, I'm going to give you an assessment to see what you know, Dr. Lang. So you're going to read into the computer is going to record it, and then you're going to see the running record. So that right there is everything that I've read in my assessment is recorded and it's digital, and then the words that you get wrong are written. See the actual real-time data, and then you can see the growth of the students. And I think the main thing that we're going to see when we look at the results over the summer and then try to see what we can do moving forward is the correlation to our core reading program and to the OST scores, because when, anyone who teaches reading, is if kids can, apply and do the 5 pillars of literacy that are all focused around the science of reading, they will meet with success. So phonics, fluency, phonemic awareness, and vocabulary. So that's our hope. And once we get the results from the 3rd graders who piloted this, my hope is to try to put this in place for our current 2nd graders who are possibly not performing at grade level, so that we're being more preventive, and then we can constantly see where we need to be to help our kids meet with success.
So, excellent overview. I want to just go back and make sure I capture the important parts of an AI program. Yours is focused on elementary reading. But some of the points that you made, personalization, so that's such a big word. Personalization, meaning that the program identified and knew each individual student, correct? Like, hello, Ladora, I'm glad you're back today. Chris, you're doing a great job, keep going. I heard that, personalization. I heard recording the voice, important that recording the voice. I heard information such as pre and post assessment. Talk about contextual help. So when they get stuck, they have immediate feedback and not just the word's fire. No, the word's fire. Go on. There was a lot of contextual help with their reading. And then finally, an assessment, an ending assessment that you could pull all the data together. I hope I captured, but I pulled out, and as I remember seeing the students using this, I thought that was really important. And I know the goal back with the school district is the 3rd grade reading guarantee, and that's a foremost goal for all elementary students, I would guess, right? In America, really, not just in Ohio, but they want all students to be able to read on the 3rd grade level. So that's kind of the mindset of all teachers. So you mentioned also next steps. Your goal is to put this in the 2nd grade classes across, what do you have, 7 elementary buildings in Princeton? Oh, 8, okay. So what decisions have to be made for an AI program to be, and this one was tested or implemented in summer school? What are the steps that you have to go through?
I think the first thing is we need the data to figure out if this is the right program for our students. And like anything else that's evidence-based, every program is not for every student, every population. So you have to really think about what the population is, what the data says. We have some really high-performing schools. You know, would this be something that we would use there? I'm not sure. Those are the kinds of things we have to get the feedback, get our principal and coach who was on board and our EL staff at this school to really see what the challenges were, what really worked. What's really important is she said the kids love it. They come to school. Are we going to do it? Is that lady coming back? You know, and they could do it at home as well.
About AI holistically also, I think what was mentioned about that individualized learning is just so powerful, and that's what that AI kind of releases, that ability to have that student interact with something that's more human. I'll use that term, more human-like, which creates that reduction of that barrier. You know, it's not that more robotic, yes, you're right, no, you're wrong. You know, it's kind of that friendly, you know, hey, let's try it again. And because they can interact with it with the natural language processing, it's something that they understand already. So they don't have to worry about, can I type? You know, do I touch the screen or do I touch the tablet? Or, you know, it's like I can just talk, you know, my name is Chris. My nombre, you know, and I think that's the beauty of what AI brings to a K-12 environment specifically for students. But we've talked a lot about students. What we've not talked about is faculty and staff, and the fact that there are AI opportunities for faculty and staff also to reduce the amount of time that we spend doing repetitive tasks, you know, creating lesson plans, you know, creating rules and regulations, creating openings for conferences that I've used it to actually help me create an opening for some of the conferences that I've attended. So I wasn't saying the same thing every time. There are so many tools, but they just have to meet those other requirements: privacy policies, effectiveness, and student growth. And when we each play our part, like Ladora says, I worry about all of that stuff so that they don't have to. Will our system handle it? Yes. Will our students get rostered? Yes. Then we make sure that they're protected? Yes. And then the rest of the team runs with the rigor and all the other fun things, and we just keep things running and going like that.
What a wonderful summary, Chris. And I'm so glad you brought up student data privacy, because our company is very, very concerned and focused on that for our new curriculum product that's coming out and being launched this fall. I also really appreciate both of you talking about decision making is crossing boundaries. You're not making decisions in isolation. You're making decisions together as a team. And you're taking on specific areas that you're really good at, and Ladora is looking at areas that she's really good at, but you come together as a team. And that team, that administrative team, has listened to others, but you're making decisions together. What a wonderful story you've told. Is there anything else you want to share with us today before we conclude?
Yeah, I just want to share, maybe Chris, this is a funny story. I guess we had a principal call us, I think from a 5th grade, that a student used Chat GPT to write a paper. Chris, do you want to share a little bit about that? So that was our first experience, and we're like, okay. So it was actually, it's funny in a way that the child was able, but Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Again, it was right after we had completed the course. So none of us were alarmed or scared of any of this. And the student actually had used Grammarly, because at that time, Chat GPT was blocked on our network for no other reason but the license required them to be 18 years old. So we're thinking, oh, we got it, it's blocked, don't worry about it. Well, then Grammarly turned on a system that allowed for generative text. And of course, the student had the AI write the paper for them and turn this paper in, and it was just way too above their grade level. So I did get the panicked call and email, and so we're actually working right now over the summer on some of our practices and responses to how we're going to handle students using artificial intelligence, and set some guardrails for them and say, here's what's acceptable and here's what's not acceptable, as opposed to just trying to block the gate and say, you shall not pass. We're going to give them ways, because the story I always tell is, you can tell maybe by the gray hair, my age, but when I was in school, we had to learn our multiplication tables. And our teachers would say, because when you get out in the real world, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time. Well, with smartphones now, literally all of us have not only a calculator, but a supercomputer in our pocket. And it wasn't that they weren't trying to teach us things that we needed to know. They just didn't know that there was a world that was going to exist that they were not aware of. And that's the challenge that we have, is we have to teach students to thrive in a world that doesn't exist yet. And if we try to clamp down on some of the infancy of some of these tools, then as they start to grow, blossom, and develop, we're doing our students a disservice, instead of telling them how you can use it effectively and still be a good student and a good citizen while using those tools to your benefit.
Today. Thank you so much. This has been so insightful, and I've learned. I hope that we can continue these conversations with Princeton City Schools, but thank you, Chris Lockhart. Thank you, Mrs. Ladora Hill. And please thank Tom Burton again for his vision and his work that he did at Princeton. So have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Learning Forever is brought to you by NewsBank. For more than 50 years, NewsBank has provided K-12 schools around the world with research and classroom products delivering vetted, trusted, primary source news content to enhance learning in and out of the classroom. Products like Access World News, America's Historical Newspapers, and Research Rockets help students build critical thinking and information literacy skills. Contact us to learn more.